Well, meanwhile, Arthel, there's other news around the globe. Nuclear North Korea sparking new tensions this weekend. The regime of Kim Jong Un fired several short-range ballistic missiles yesterday. You know, that was the first test since it launched long-range missiles a month ago. Missiles that experts say could reach as far as Chicago. President Trump is monitoring the situation, we are told, while Secretary of State Rex Tillerson called for calm when he appeared earlier today on Fox News Sunday, saying the administration is working with our allies.
We're going to continue our peaceful pressure campaign, as I have described it, working with allies, working with China as well, to see if we can bring the regime in Pyongyang to the negotiating table with a view to begin a dialogue on a different future for Korean Peninsula and for North Korea.
So can that dialogue really begin? John Bolton joins us, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Fox's contributor, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and chairman of the Gatestone Institute here in New York. You know, Ambassador, Kim Jong Un reminds me of my dog. You put a bone down, you tell your dog to sit, and he does. He obeys for a while, and then suddenly he'll just go and grab the bone. I mean, is that the behavior that we see? Secretary of State Tillerson said that there was restraint from North Korea, but that lasted only a few days before they popped off a shot.
Well, I have to say, last week Secretary Tillerson was saying that he thought that restraint was a good sign that they could get to the negotiating table, an assessment that lasted right up until they fired this salvo of missiles this weekend. I mean, I must say, I think the State Department is following the same pattern, much like your dog and the bone. That statement that you just played from Secretary Tillerson was an excellent example of Barack Obama's foreign policy. It's a policy that the United States has pursued unsuccessfully for 25 years. If we can just talk to the North Koreans, maybe we can chit-chat them out of their desire to have deliverable nuclear weapons. That strategy has failed for 25 years. It has brought us to the place we are today. There's no evidence whatever that North Korea's behavior is going to change.
So what will potentially change that? I mean, speaking of bones, President George W. Bush took him off the terrorist list. That didn't work. Bill Clinton, of course, had the famous 1994 oil for food trade, where they promised not to have nuclear weapons. That didn't work. Can China actually pressure them, or is that we're just dreaming?
Well, China has unique capability to pressure North Korea. There's no doubt about it. But they have failed these last 25 years to exert that pressure because they fear regime collapse. I think they understand that despite the nuclear program, the regime is much more fragile than appears on the surface. But they fear the collapse because of catastrophic consequences for China. That is the opening for the United States. There is no point whatever in continued negotiation with North Korea. If we're going to have a diplomatic solution here, and we are running out of time, it will be by persuading China that it's in their national interest as well as ours to seek to reunite the two Koreas. I think it's a hard argument to make. And I'll say again, we're running out of time. We don't have good options. We don't have another 25 years of trying to negotiate with a regime that makes lying into an art form. Because they are at the point, very near to the point, next year perhaps, where they'll be able to hit any target in the United States with a nuclear warhead. Look at the full-page graphic in the New York Times today. This is not alarmism. The New York Times essentially corroborates what I've just said. And, of course, we could be off on that estimate. It could be by the end of this year. It could be 2019. But the fact is they are very close to being able to threaten us. And their objective is not simply to protect against American hostility. The Kim regime has never given up the dream of taking over all of South Korea, and a nuclear capacity will be used to blackmail us and the people of South Korea and Japan. If you don't like North Korea's behavior now, wait until they get a worldwide nuclear warhead delivery capability.
But then China certainly does not want a unified South Korea type Korea in the peninsula there. But that, of course, is the challenge and what we face, Ambassador Bolton, because of our pressing news with Storm Harvey. We have to go, but we will stay on this as always. Thank you for joining us on Sundays. Of course.